Welcome, everyone. My name is Lauran Hartley, and I serve as director of the Modern Tibetan Studies program here in the Weatherhead East Asian Institute at Columbia University. It is my pleasure today to welcome our guest, Dorji Gyeltshen, professor of law at the Jigme Khesar Wangchuck School of Law in Paro, Bhutan. Professor Gyeltshen will be speaking on the education and life of fully ordained nuns in Bhutan. His talk today draws on research for a forthcoming book that he is co-authoring with Manuel Lopez, Associate Professor of Buddhist Studies and Religion at the New College of Florida. Professor Lopez, who is also with us today, will make a few introductory remarks about the book project, and then we will move directly to Professor Dorji Gyeltshen's talk. Dorji Gyeltshen will speak for about 40 to 45 minutes, which will leave us ample time for questions and discussion afterwards. And we ask that the online participants enter their questions into the Q&A box at that time. Finally, I want to thank the Weatherhead East Asian Institute for its sponsorship, which allows us to bring Professor Gyeltshen here today. This event is being recorded and shall be posted in about 10 days to our MTSP YouTube playlist. So we'll start with Manu, your introduction.
Thanks everyone for coming, and thanks Lauran for your introduction, and to the Weatherhead East Asian Institute and the Modern Tibetan Studies program at Columbia for co-sponsoring this talk. I know you're here for Professor Gyeltshen, so I will keep this brief, I promise. Professor Gyeltshen and I have known each other for 6 years now. We met in the summer of 2018 when I landed in Bhutan with a really vague idea for a project on contemporary monastic education. That project has finally become a book manuscript under the provisional title Learning Buddhism, Contemporary Education in Bhutan, which asks a deceptively simple question. What do Buddhist monastics study in a monastery? While this might seem like a simple question, the reality is that not a lot of literature exists on this topic. The academic study of Buddhism has had a historical tendency to focus on ideal representations of the tradition, mostly as found in the scriptures and the Buddhist canon, producing a version of Buddhism, or what some scholars have labeled textbook Buddhism, that has become familiar to most undergraduate students who take an introduction to Buddhism course at most American colleges and universities. This ideal version of Buddhism has also been disseminated by most of the popular literature about the tradition and can be found in the books written by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Dalai Lama, or even in more modernist texts like the ones by Robert Wright, Why Buddhism is Right or is True. Buddhism is perceived as a religion mostly focused on meditation and non-violence, a philosophy and a way of life, closely aligned with the principles of modern science. Our project offers a critique and an alternative to those presentations of the tradition by using the monastic curriculum as a lens through which to examine how Buddhism is actually taught and understood within the confines of the monastery. Our book hopes to join the efforts of scholars such as George Dreyfus, who explored Tibetan monastic education in his groundbreaking book, The Sounds of Two Hands Clapping, the work on contemporary monastic education in Thailand by Justin McDaniel and Kamai Damasamy, and complement the work that scholars such as Yuri Kaplan has done in Korea, Thomas Borcher and Douglas Gildo in China, and Joel Yang and Andrew Taylor in Tibet, trying to understand how Buddhism is understood within the confines of a monastery and through the lens of the monastic curriculum. Our goal is to examine the actual monastic curriculum not as a collection of texts, but as an interpretative category that can help us understand monastic communities beyond scholarly analytical dichotomies, such as those of traditional versus modern, canonical versus commentarial, and ritual versus scholastic. Our project examines contemporary religious education in Bhutan by using the curriculum as the battleground of many important contemporary debates, including the impact of secularization, the role of tradition, and the need to adapt and modernize religious education, among others. And one important one that it's the topic of today, the inequality of access to the curriculum based on gender. Learning Buddhism argues that Bhutan is in the midst of a transformational period in which Buddhist education and the monastic curriculum are being revitalized as a result of a variety of factors, such as the success of secular education, the influence of transnational Buddhist movements and ideas, and the introduction of a new curriculum from Tibetan monasteries in India, and the loss of political power by the religious hierarchy after the introduction of the Bhutanese constitution in 2008. The result is a monastic curriculum that asserts specific Bhutanese sectarian and national identity and introduces a religious education that is transforming monastic life and education in ways that we are only beginning to see. The monastic curriculum has, interestingly enough, played an important role in the issue that Professor Gyeltshen will discuss today, the fight for full ordination by Bhutanese nuns, since the lack of access to education, and therefore to the monastic curriculum, or at least to all of it, has been traditionally blamed on the nuns' lack of ordination. Educational rights became entangled with ordination rights, and organizations like the Bhutan Nuns Foundation, which Professor Gyeltshen will discuss today, argue that one cannot be achieved without the other. The process of writing this book has been a long and windy journey, just like Bhutan's roads. What was supposed to be a solo project became quickly a close collaboration between two Buddhist scholars with very different life experiences and approaches to the study of Buddhism. One, a Spaniard, who stumbled into Buddhism almost by accident while in college and began a journey of discovery and a study that took me from India all the way to Bhutan. And the other, a former Buddhist monk who left his native Bhutan to study in India at the most prestigious Tibetan commentarial college, and who, upon his return to Bhutan, decided to hang his robe and became an academic. What was supposed to take 3 years ended up taking 6. Some of it because of the changing nature of the project, as we talked to more and more people, visited dozens of monasteries and nunneries, and witnessed the rapid changes happening to all the religious educational landscape in the country. But also, we should not forget, due to the dramatic impact caused by a worldwide pandemic that closed Bhutan to the outside world for almost 2 years. We hope that this book, when it is finished and published, results in a modest but important contribution to the understanding of Buddhist monasticism in general, and monasticism in Bhutan in particular. With that, I will leave you with Professor Gyeltshen.
Good evening to all. First of all, I would like to thank the Weatherhead East Asian Institute and the Modern Tibetan Studies Program for sponsoring this talk. I want to particularly thank the director of the Modern Tibetan Studies Program, Lauran, Hartley, for her effort in making this visit possible. And I want to thank all of you present here and those online for attending the talk. As my colleague and the collaborator, Professor Manu Lopez has already mentioned, this talk is part of our larger research project on contemporary monastic education in Bhutan, which hopefully will be published soon in book form. Today, I would like to focus specifically on the status of education of Bhutanese nuns. This talk is largely divided into 3 sections. First, I will discuss the historical events that took place in the summer of 2022 that forever changed the status of nuns in Bhutan. Second, I will briefly discuss the process that made that ceremony possible. And finally, I will discuss what has changed a year after this momentous ceremony. In the summer of 2022, an important development took place that radically altered not only the status of the nuns in Bhutan, but also thank you. Bhutan, but also that of the nuns all over the Himalayan world. On June 23, 2022, at the request of the King of the Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck, and the Queen Mother Gyeltshen Wangchuck, and even organized by the Bhutan Nuns Foundation, the 17th Je Khenpo Tulku Jigme Chodrak conducted a bhikṣuṇī ordination for 144 nuns, restoring the Mūlasarvāstivāda female lineage in the Himalayan tradition. The Je Khenpo is the highest authority of the Bhakāji sect in the country, the largest Buddhist religious sect in the Bhutan, and also the sect that is officially supported by the state. So what is the big deal here? To understand the issue of the ordination, it is important to point out that historical Buddhism had two levels of the ordination for monks, novice monks, fully ordained monks, and three levels for nuns, novice nun, provisional nun, and or the fully ordained nun. Historically, nuns had to follow the more vows than monks. The Theravada tradition in the South Asia has 311 vows for nuns versus 227 for monks. And the Mūlasarvāstivāda followed mostly in the Himalayan imposed even more with the 364 rules for nuns versus 253 for monks. Among the precepts nuns have to uphold are also 8 Guru Dhammas, or the 8 heavy rules. Some of these rules prohibited to and prohibited none to abuse and revile among in any way, and obese and domination of the monks by nuns. The most famous is the first one, which says that nuns who have been ordained even for 100 years must read, respectfully rise up from her seat, salute with joining plant, do proper homage to monk ordained, but that day along the tradition of these rules to the historical Bhutanese matter of the socially debated, and their enforcement has been unequally followed throughout the Buddhist world. Their existence is canon, regimented and structured hierarchy and inequality that has had clear impact to this day. The female order only survived in Theravada countries like Sri Lanka until the 11th century, and the Burma, Myanmar until 13th. Although this notion is disputed by some scholars, the order of nuns seems to have never made it to Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. In Tibet and Bhutan, full female ordination was never introduced, and nuns have only had access to the novice status. The only place where the full ordination has survived are East Asian countries such as China, Taiwan, Korea, and Vietnam, where it survived under the Dharmaguptaka lineage. The other was never established in Japan. Order was never established in Japan. In many Buddhist countries, the disappearance of the order of nuns or their reduced status that keep them at the level of the novice nuns became an almost unsurmountable obstacle for women to propose the level of the education afforded to monks, and it relegated most women to the role of the ritual practitioner to temple caretakers. In recent times, there have been variety of the movement across the Buddhist world attempting to introduce the role of the female renunciation into those countries where it was completely lost or had never been introduced. Part of the transformation of contemporary female monasticism has also included a push for reviving and some cases introducing for the first time full female monastic or bhikṣuṇī ordination across the Buddhist world. It is for this reason that ceremony I described was truly historical one, since by most accounts, bhikṣuṇī ordination had never been introduced to Tibet or Bhutan, and nuns have only had access to the novice status since the introduction of Buddhism in the region in the 7th century. Je Khenpo himself understood the historical nature of the ceremony, as well as what a delicate balance he had navigated for ceremony to be widely accepted. The proceedings are kept secret from the most Bhutanese until the last minute. The reason for the secrecy seems to be connected to a possible blacklist from conservative sector to the ceremony from Bhutan, as well as from Tibetan exiled communities. That fear was not unfounded, and a few days before the ceremony, some criticism started to circulate beyond social personal message and the social media. At the last minute, several Nima nuns also decided to not join, mostly following the suggestion of their male lamas, although the announcement said that they had done that of their own accord. Je Khenpo tried to address those criticisms in the speech he gave to the nuns during the ceremony. He told the nuns that he had been hesitant about it, and said that he did not even have the slightest thought, let alone a full plan and competence to preside over momentous occasions such as this, and he was following the King and Queen Mother's request. At the same time, he also acknowledged that it is historic moment and the progressive step we have taken in tune with changing time. At the risk of becoming the too technical, 3 options had been discussed to receive the bhikṣuṇī lineage. The first one was combining monks from the Mūlasarvāstivāda tradition, the one practiced in Tibet and Bhutan, and nuns from the Dharmaguptaka tradition from China to mix both lineage. The second one using only monks from Mūlasarvāstivāda tradition and to keep the lineage pure. And the third one, bringing monks and nuns from Dharmaguptaka tradition and to bring a pure lineage from the Chinese tradition. The Je Khenpo decided to conduct the bhikṣuṇī ordination using the second one option, using only monks from the Mūlasarvāstivāda lineage. This came under the heavy criticism since the option that had gained traction in Tibetan exile community was dual ordination lineage, trying to combine both traditions. The Je Khenpo's justification was that Vinaya texts such as the Kusatara Kangama and the Vinaya Uttara Ganta and many learned commentaries on Vinaya state that bhikṣuṇī vows can come from purely male bhikṣuṇī in Sangha, and thus female bhikṣuṇī ordination can be given by the male bhikṣuṇī if there are not bhikṣunis. If they are not bhikṣunis. And that contemporary figures like Dalai Lama and the Karmapa have been supportive of the process. The Je Khenpo also discussed how the ordination could be 3 main purposes: serving sensation being through the Buddha Dharma, and gendering religious freedom, and the helping human rights. The last 2 seems to echo some of the language of the organizations like Bhutan Nuns Foundation, which defined the rights of the nuns of full ordination as part of their religious freedom and as basic human rights. Women's rights are the human rights. The Je Khenpo also tried to address some of the concern about how the new bhikṣuṇī nuns would be able to uphold all of their vows, which in the Mūlasarvāstivāda Vinaya is 364 for nuns and verses 252 for monks. It is that for that reason he argued that one must distinguish what are essentially negative and those which are difficult to observe due to physically location and time, and observe them as are the difficult, as appropriate. It is said that Vinaya must accord with time and place. Despite some criticism, the ceremony took place and was later reported by the TV and the media as a historical moment, with one of the two national newspapers calling the Je Khenpo a trailblazer. To put it in context, Bhutan went from having barely any ordained Drupakaji nuns until 2014 when the Je Khenpo performed for the first time a massive novice ordination ceremony to offering full ordination in 2022. A remarkable tons of events in barely 8 years, it is difficult to oversight the historical significance of this event. This will be the first time in the history of Himalayan Buddhism, going back to 7th century, that Buddhist sect has institutionally decided to offer full ordination to their nuns. Until now, there had been some acceptance by leaders in exile, the Dalai Lama included, but those nuns who decided to pursue full ordination have not received institutional recognition once this happened. This is the first time that full ordination will be fully recognized by the institutional structure of Himalayan Buddhist sect. In this sense, Bhutan is not following the lead of the Tibetan religious institution in exile anymore, but it is instead forging a new path. Now let's take a step back and examine how this historical ceremony happened. What were the forces, the institute, and the people? What made it possible? To illustrate the remarkable transformation of the status and education of nuns over the last 40 years, I cannot think of a better example than that of Anya Chitim, since her life reflects in remarkable ways the lives of so many Bhutanese nuns over the last 4 decades. It will also help put a face to changing that have happened to Bhutanese nuns over the last few decades. When the change that have happened, when Anya Chitim Omo decided to become a nun in 1982 at the age of 19, there were only 3 nuns in the Bhutan: Chachukamo in Punna Kakilagumba in Paro, and Kimgarate in Tonsa. Chachukamo, the oldest of the existing nuns in Bhutan, was at that time abandoned and they had been offered to the central monastery as a retreat place for the monks. Kimgarate had been built as a small temple in 1968 by Khenpo Chitim Jamsa, a Tibetan Lama exiled in Bhutan after the occupation of the Tibet in 1959, to host a small group of 11 Tibetan nuns who came with him into exile. And Kila Gyomba only had a handful of nuns. None of the nunneries offered formal education to nuns. None of the Buddhist nuns, with one single exception, were ordained, and because of that, most of them did not even wear formal robes. In order to receive an education, Anya Chitim traveled to India, and where she was ordained as novice in 1984 and informally studied at several Tibetan nuns in exile. Over the over the ensuing decade, many Bhutanese nuns like Ani traveled to India and Nepal to get ordination and education they could not receive in their own country. Their exposure to the struggle, but also the new education opportunity that Tibetan nuns were offering in India, inspired them to work and transform the status and education of nuns in Bhutan over the following decades. The results have been quite remarkable. During this period, nuns have grown from handful to over 1,200, and nunneries have been grown from 3 already mentioned to 30 and counting, with many nunneries now also opening the settled nunneries and retreat center in the different parts of the country. Never in the history of the Bhutan has there been as many nuns or as many nunneries, and Bhutan is country living a remarkable period in which nuns are attaining our status as ordained nuns, and now as fully ordained nuns, and education in numbers never seen in historical of the country. Some of the reasons they explain that this remarkable transformation can be explained as the result of the same process that changed religious education for Buddhism in the country during the same period. A product of the introduction of universal secular education in 1959, the adoption of the commentary curriculum as the centerpiece of monastery education in the late 1980s, and the rise of the Sheda or the commentary college as the central education institution for monks, which began in 1988 with the creation of the Tangu College. Our contention, though, it is that in addition to those factors, female religious education in Bhutan has faced unique challenges that have been causes none to search for creative and alternative ways to improve their religious and social status, as well as in order to have access to better religious education. In our research, we argue that historical culture and religious conditions imposed onto nuns as reflected until very recently in the lack of the full ordination, and before 2014, even novice ordination for Vakaju nuns, as well as insufficient institutional support, and have been processed nuns to rely on transnational network for the Buddhist institution, mostly in India and Nepal, as well as in local non-governmental organizations such as Bhutan Nuns Foundation, in order to improve their institution, as well as to thinking beyond the traditional framework of the status that the monastic education afforded to them in Bhutan. So nuns themselves have pushed the envelope over the last few decades, asking for the status and education rights there were not afforded to them. But while some nuns continue fighting for equal education opportunity within the traditional monastery structure, one organization, Bhutan Nuns Foundation, has played a central role in remaining the role that nuns can play in modern Bhutanese society, and has developed interesting new educational opportunity for nuns, and has been at the forefront for the fight for equal ordination right for nuns in this country. Founded in 2009 by Tashidama, a lay Buddhist activist under the patronage of Her Majesty the Queen Mother Ashin Siroma Wangchuck. The mission of the BNF has been to ensure that all Buddhist nuns and other grassroots women have improved their living condition, equal education, and self-reliance, thus enabling the women's successful participation in social economic development of Bhutan. and also aims to improve the living condition and economic viability of the rural village and preserving Bhutan's strong, sustainable culture and spiritual heritage as it faces rapid economic development. The organization has played a very important role since this foundation in raising awareness about the status of the nuns and importance of the providing infrastructure and the education on par with that of monks. As Tashi Zamo made clear during the interview, the Bhutan's nunneries received no support from the government and barely any support from the CMB. The programs made by the nuns over the last few decades, including the construction of the mosques of the current nunneries all over the country, as well as their rise for the access to commentary curriculum, has been mostly carried out by the nuns themselves. Since it is a foundation, BNA has fought for the nuns' right, has helped them close the existing gender gap with the male monastic by the partnering with international organizations such as UNICEF and to ensure the safety of minor in nuns as well as providing sanitation and health and hygienic workshops in nuns. BNA has also worked with the wide range of international organizations to provide training to the nuns on variety of the issues, first aid and the disaster management, hospice care, leadership, etc. The training center inaugurated in 2020 is a great example of their creative approach to the helping Bhutanese nuns. The training center is a project unlike any other in the country religious environment in the Bhutan. It is not nunnery and it is neither under the control of the government or CMB. Although their main goal is to train nuns, it will be also open to lay women, youth, and other lay member of the community to learn and gather. The type of the education it will be neither ritual nor of the commentary tradition, and it will focus on promoting spiritual and psychological values, well-being and welfare in the context of the modern day life and living. The center's core mission will be to provide training for nuns that will be social impact, and as acknowledged by Tashi Zama, it wants to embrace that idea of socially engaged Buddhism as it has been developed in other Buddhist countries. In an interview, Zamo described that the major goals of the center, which will offer the counseling, training, hospice, and the basic healthcare, palliative care, and leadership and management workshop, short meditation courses for the nuns, and lay movements like yoga, tai chi, and qigong short retreats. Ideas like this, like the training center, are important not only because they offer the new education opportunity for nuns, but because they are rethinking and role and the status of the nuns outside the campaigns of traditional monastic education and structure. Either those of central monastic bodies which control the Dubakaji institution, or those of the independent nuns that are connected to particular lamas in Bhutan or larger Buddhist network in India and Nepal. The training center was also center of the operation from where they planned the full ordination ceremony. In the day before the ceremony, we were able to visit and the place was filled with nuns trying to put together the final details for the ceremony. It has been a little over a year since the ceremony. After all of the effort by the nuns like Ani Chitim Omo, or more recently the work of the organization like Bhutan Nuns Foundation, Bhutanese nuns can now achieve full ordination. So now what? What has changed in the lives of the Buddhist nuns since then? The lives of those ordained nuns, and those who aspire to be ordained, who has society received it, and what is next. Let me illustrate what has changed by introducing you three nuns who received full ordination at the ceremony a year ago. My colleague, Professor Lopez, were able to talk a few of them, and these three offer the good sample as to the new lives of fully ordained nuns in the Bhutan. This is Tsering Zamo. She is 35, and from Wangdi, she became a Drukpa Kagyu nun at 18 when her mother passed away, and she decided to become a nun to help her parents, her family, and her community. She had decided at the secular. She studied a secular school until grade 5 and has completed her Sheda studies, the 9 years of the monastery curriculum at Sanchin Dorji. She was in the first graduating class at the monastery college. Although she joined the ceremony in 2006, she only received the novice vows in 2020 and became full ordained in ceremony that took place in 2022. When asked what was different about her life now, she thought about it for a little bit, and they told us that most of it is practical things. She could eat anytime she wanted before. Now she has to eat before noon. After that, she is allowed to have juice, but not food. Before her full ordination, she could go for friends and family and stay overnight. She is also more aware of her body and restriction she has when interacting with the others, particularly men. Dorji Dharma is from southern part of the Bhutan, and from Tagana. She is 20 years old, and she joined the Loseyanchin in 2017. She wanted to be a nun because a lot of her family are devoted Buddhists. She joined after finishing high school. She also wanted to become fully ordained. When he asks about the vows, and she has to follow. She has to follow now, and she told us that she is still not very familiar with them, but she does not feel that since her full ordination, she is more aware of the things she can and she cannot do. She is also more aware of some of the physical restraint imposed. This is Pinto Omo from the Loseyanchin in Monga. She's in 5th grade of the monastic studies. She wanted to become a nun since she was very young and tried after 6th grade, but her parents wanted to study more and was only able to do it after ninth grade. Right after for the high school, she took the novice vow in 2016. She told us that she wanted since this is something that Buddha had offered to nuns, and if monks have access to full ordination, so should nuns. She was eager to receive a full vows before there was the possibility. She had heard that there was a full ordination in other countries, and before Bhutan Nuns Foundation announced the possibility, she knew she wanted to do it. On site, no, Ani Tsutumomo and none I introduced before, who had to go to India to receive novice ordination and study in the 1980s, told us that she did not want to receive full ordination. She expressed some concern about the process and was pleased with the vows and the status she had. In this case, Pinso Omo thought the decision was easy, and she felt that support of her friend and family. We talked to more nuns, but this snapshot interview with the three of them should give you a sense of how some of them nuns feel and about their new life. In many years, they did not seem to think that their lives had changed much at least on daily basis, but there was also a sense that a lot has changed, particularly in how they felt about themselves and how the others within their nunnery and in the outside the world people perceive them and then now. While the change in monastery education for monks in Bhutan has been, generally speaking, a top-down affair, mostly imposed by the central monastery body in the case of the Dvakagi monasteries, and leadership of few lamas in the case of Nima ones. The institution of the nuns has been the reverse. The nuns dive in the conversation, fighting for the chance of their status as well as for the education opportunity that monks were being offered. This lack of the centralization in the implementation of education for nuns has encountered important obstacles, but has also allowed the nuns and various nunneries, with the help of the institution like Bhutan Nuns Foundation, to be more creative and think outside the box in the terms of what it means to be a nun and what it should be a part of their monastic education. The recent ceremony that granted full ordination status to over 144 nuns beside the by Je Khenpo was the turning point in the history, not only the Bhutanese nuns, but also of all female monastery in the Himalayan world. It is still too early to predict what the consequence of the ceremony will be, and here I only try to offer an early snapshot a year after it happened, but it is possible to ceremony might radically transform the status recognition and education of nuns in the country, as well as open door to institutional reform in other parts of the Himalayan world. such as the Tibetan communities in India and Nepal. Thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to answer questions now.
Q&A here. I wanted to start out with a couple of questions for you, if that's okay, so that you can enlighten us more. In your talk, you described the stages of this development from almost no nuns to the mass ordination of novices, novitiates in 2014, to finally this full ordination of how many total nuns were ordained in 2022? It's about 300, was it, or 140?
144.
144. Thank you. So the impetus for this, you also described the impetus for this women monastics. The impetus for this coming from women monastics, organizations like the Bhutan Nuns Foundation. And we could literally look at this as a development that has been 1,200 years, 12 decades maybe in the making. And what took so long? I wondered if you could talk about the history through your research. Why do you think it took so long to reach this point where full ordination of nuns is now has finally happened in the Mūlasarvāstivāda lineage? In any case, why did it take so long?
I think it depends on the nuns themselves. In the last decade, and they never raise their voice, and they also not that. I think they think that it is enough for them to just do whatever the dharma in retreat or whatever. It's not important for the take the vows. That's why they don't rise in. One thing is that there is a no until 2020 there is a no like BNF, Bhutan Nuns Foundation. So it's very like this is we are talking like institutional recognition, structure, ordination. Before there was some full ordination, but it is not institutional. There are personnel who request their lama and they took full ordination and whatever. So, but this is why we are talking is institutional recognize the full ordination. That's why
institutionally recognized full ordination.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing a talk by a Western nun, I think it was Tulku Jigme, who said that she received her ordination. She went to Taiwan to be fully ordained, and then called that her Vinaya lineage, but that her teaching lineage was Tibetan Buddhist. That was her workaround, as I understand it, in her situation. So I wanted to ask you, could you discuss a bit about the demographics or the composition of the nuns who were ordained? And we couldn't hear everything so clearly in the room, but what percentage were actually from Bhutan, and were there nuns from beyond Bhutan? Could you talk about that?
I think, yeah. I think 80% from the Bhutan, and some from India, and one from the United States. I mean from Kingdom, United Kingdom.
From the United Kingdom. And were they all in the Drukpa Kagyu order, or did they represent other schools as well?
No, they are also same, like 80% is from the Kagyu lineage, and the others, some of them from the Nima also, they received the full ordination from the Je Khenpo.
Oh, the Nima did as well.
Yeah.
So in my research before today, I found in a 2016 article by Sonam Wangmo and Julie Edo, I believe, is that right? Edo? And they talked about the government-supported Drukpa Kagyu nunneries in the western part of Bhutan. And they sort of contrasted that with a privately funded Nyingma nunnery in eastern Bhutan. Maybe you read this in your research. I just wondered if did this mass ordination sort of affect that dynamic? Does it build up the government-funded nunneries, or how might that impact the current structure, if 1 year has passed now, how might this affect sort of structurally the organization, the patronage of nunneries, let's say starting in Bhutan in Bhutan?
I think it is not because of the supporting from the state or government. It is depend on their own decision. But right now, because of the this is given by the Je Khenpo, his institution is funding by state.
Yeah.
And most of the nuns come from that's why it come from what I said, the state funding nuns.
Most are from the government, the state-funded nunneries.
State-funded nuns, yeah.
All right. Okay. And I will keep an eye on here. I'm seeing a number of questions are already coming in, so I will hold those. And also, if there's anybody in the room who would like to ask a question, we're looking for questions here. Yes, yeah, go ahead. We'll start with. So we're going to have to actually speak into the mic so that people online can also hear. Okay.
And I'm Tierney Brown. To follow up on Lauren's question about the placement of these nunneries, you had this wonderful map that showed a real blossoming of nunneries in the East. And I was wondering if you could speak a bit more about that, whether there were a lot more nuns in the East compared to the West, or whether that was part of the Nun Foundation's emphasis on rural areas, et cetera. Yeah, about the difference in the locations of so many nunneries in the East.
Thank you. I think it's because of the in ways they have in compared to the population also East is the most we have more population in the East firstly, and second one is in West side we have lots of the monastery for the monks. So that's why I think one who established the nuns, it is they want to keep distance with the nuns and monks. It's better to practice their own monastery, and that's why it come most of the nuns in the east part.
To keep them separate from the monasteries, which are more concentrated in the West, you're saying.
Can I add something to that? Sure, please. There was also an interesting development where, so Bhutan has two main sects, which is the Drukpa Kagyu, which is sponsored by the state, and it's very hierarchical. And then you have the Nyingma, which is almost like privately funded through private networks of lamas, and a lot of them have connections in exile. So, and this is sort of part of the book project that we've been working on. One of the interesting things is like there was these two tracks. For a long time, the Nyingma tradition moved faster in terms of the progress that particularly the nuns were making. A lot of it because they had these connections with exile communities, and in exile, the nuns had access to education much earlier. They were exposed to even novice vows much earlier. So for decades, Nyingma nuns in exile and in Bhutan, as a reflection of it, were progressing much faster, and they were developing faster in Bhutan too, because they were having funding from outside. The Drukpa Kagyu nunneries were moving slower because the government was focusing most of the resources towards monasteries, toward monks, right? To the development, not only of monasteries for monks, but also to the development of a monastic curriculum and the commentarial colleges, the Shedras for monks. And so their movement was slower, right? Because it was all hierarchical, centralized, very bureaucratic. So that's where you also have much of a blossoming of nunneries in the East, which is mostly Nyingma, and the West is mostly Drukpa Kagyu. Now, what has happened since 2014, it's almost this kind of reverse of the speed where the Drukpa Kagyu has really accelerated the process of almost like a progress, if you want to, although progress is a problematic term, but where since they broke almost this glass ceiling with the novice ordination, then there was this pressure, particularly from the Bhutan Nuns Foundation and the support of the royal family, where while the Nyingma tradition in exile and in Bhutan were resistant to break the glass ceiling with full ordination because, the exile community was not fully on board. The Drukpa Kagyu community suddenly, when they reached that ceiling, because it's so hierarchical, they only needed one voice to say, we're doing this, instead of having 100 voices arguing about it. And that voice was basically the king, the Je Khenpo, it was a few voices, but that also broke the ceiling. And that's why I also have this dichotomy where there's less nunneries, most of the nunneries in the east because of the Nyingma, but at the same time, the Drukpa Kagyu nuns now are kind of farther ahead than the Nyingmas. So I don't know, just to clarify.
Thank you. We have a few more questions. Yeah, is it good? Okay, yeah, sure. Wangchuck.
Yes, thank you so much. My question is, you said that it needs institutional recognition. And I think the institution, one is monastic institutions, there's non-governmental institutions, and another is like state.
Yep.
Do you mean that also only the institutions within the sects or cross sects recognitions, or your state institution recognitions? And I also heard that the Dalai Lama support this, Karmapa support this, they're ahead of their sect. It seems like if they support, then there's an institution of that sect's support. But still, the ordination not really commonly happens in Tibetan Buddhism communities. Is it me feel like need state recognitions, official state recognition? Is that the case? Since the Bhutan is like Buddhist country, king support, and it then seems it happens.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, you are right. I also heard that there are a lot of discussion, even the international discussion there in Tibetan excellent monastery. They did a lot of the talk about it. But even Dalai Lama, the Dalai Lama also they talk about this. But I saw the one clip there. What Dalai Lama talking was, it is better to revive the nuns, the full ordination for the nuns, but it depends on the public voice. It depends on you. And if the public say yes, then we can revive it. But in Bhutan, because of you mentioned that we are the country and the Buddhist country, and firstly, it is not the lay person request that is Je Khenpo. It is request from the king and Queen Mother, both of them, their request. That's why I think the Je Khenpo also, he decided to preside this ordination. That's why I think so. Is it clear there?
An argument for enlightened monarchy as a state form. All right, I'm going to pick up a couple of the questions that are online. A question from Hamsa R asking, have any Tibetan nuns traveled to Bhutan from Tibet or Nepal or India to get full ordination?
From Tibet, I don't think so from Tibet, because of this is very difficult to travel from Tibet to Bhutan. Mm-hmm. And from the Ladakh, we have 21 nuns from Ladakh. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think even that out of the country they have come. Even they actually they wanted to come over the 100 over numbers, but because they're during that time COVID is not that clear. Mm-hmm. They have to stay in the quarantine. That's why the Bhutan Nuns Foundation they request them. Will again, it will be, you will preside the same Je Khenpo, and you can wait for the other second one. Right now, just that time, they can receive only the 21 nuns from the Ladakh.
Were they from a Kagyu institution?
Yeah,
Kagyu. Interesting. Okay. Nepal? Did you have any nuns come from Nepal?
Nepal, I don't think so.
That's okay. Khenpo Droma is asking, we rejoice in the bhikṣuṇī ordination. The follow-up support needs a great deal of attention, such as Vinaya studies, Sojong, and Yarne. How are these vital monastic requirements being supported and implemented?
Yes, as according to the Vinaya, they can do the Sojong, Yarne, Gaya, we call the Jisung Choka. There are three kinds of main in the Vinaya practice. In Bhutan, we did research and we asked them the question. In the East Temple, Gyeltshen in the Mongol, they already started the Sojong and Gaya. All they are practicing right after the receiving their full order.
And Yarne being the summer retreat, I assume.
Summer
retreat.
Summer,
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a Yarne, summer retreat, and summer retreat they do the Sojong, and Sojong is every twice in a month they have to do the full moon and other days.
Could you explain that for people who aren't familiar with the terms Sojong, what exactly that involves?
Sojong,
Mhm.
in Sojong there, what you mean?
Could you just explain a little bit what is Sojong?
In Sojong they have 5 parts of the rules.
Mhm.
In the out of the 364, and it divided in 5 parts, and the top 8 down they cannot apologize. If they break the rule, then it is out of their Vinaya. They have to step down. Others, the four remains, they can apologize and doing Sojong them. Oh, I have unintentionally I have done that one. It is apologize for them to revive
renew their vows.
Vows.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a Sojong.
Okay.
And especially the Sojong novice and full ordinance both can do the Sojong, but the novice nuns they cannot listen the Patimoksha, or during Patimoksha time they have to go out for novice nuns.
Mm-hmm.
If they receive the full ordinance, then they can listen the Patimoksha part.
Mm-hmm.
Even after 10 years, or even for now also they can recite the Patimoksha. This is the main thing.
Okay.
Yep.
And the support, I think the question was about the support of that sort of institutional support and organization. Will these are being implemented fully and supported?
Already implemented in their nunneries, and even some nuns living in the Bhutan Nuns Foundation. The 7 of them, they are living in the Nuns Foundation. They are working there. They are also doing the Sojong every 15 days. Between 15 days, they have to do. They are doing. And I asked them who is going to recite the Patimoksha, and they said one of the senior most one is taking it. Senior most means the
senior nun.
Senior nuns.
Mm-hmm.
When they get even the 1 second they receive the nuns, then that one's a senior nun.
Okay.
Really the senior type of the they really, even like I mentioned, if they get it 1 second before, it is a senior.
Okay, they're considered a senior nun even if they've just been ordained even a second ago. So okay, a loose definition. As I understand it, after 12 years, eventually, if I understand correctly, the ordination could then be given by a nun or an abbess, right? Eventually.
The monks should be there.
I see.
Main coordinator should be monk, but there should be nuns, full ordinance. 10 years after.
10 years after. Okay.
10 years after they can preside in whatever they can. But if they want to preside other nuns, they should be the
monks.
Monks, full ordained monks.
For now.
Yeah.
For now. Okay.
This was the first time also that there was summer retreat, and the Bhutanese nuns were invited to India to do for the first time the summer retreat with other nuns from other Buddhist countries.
This is the first time there was a summer retreat, and the Bhutanese nuns were able to join. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting talk. My name is Greg Flugfelder. I teach Japanese history here at Columbia. I also had the pleasure of teaching at Taktse at ILCS for a month a few years back. Maybe this is some information that you imparted at some point. I must have missed it. I'm wondering how the Bhutan Nuns Foundation is financed. That looked like a very expensive training center. I'm wondering who is it that's supporting that enterprise? Because I think you said that it's not the state and it's not the central monastic body.
Thank you. I think they are trying to get from the international support. From like the 21st century, this institution, there are a lot of the gender issues there, and if someone can the help for the nuns or female, they will get the support from the international organizer. So that's why they said it is not supported from the government.
So you're saying it is said to be all privately funded from international groups.
Yeah, firstly from the international support outside the country, and second, there will be some of the some of them they get the sponsor from the local too.
And local as well. Okay, we have Carol McGuire online says, wonderful changes, exclamation point. Thank you for the talk. What differences have begun for the nuns' education since the full ordination?
Yeah, this is a good question, and thank you for the question. Yep. Yeah, there's a big difference. If they are full ordinate, they can allow the Vinaya study. They allow the Vinaya. They have we have two parts of the Vinaya. One is for the monks ordained, full ordained, and the other one is the nuns who full ordained. They can study the Vinaya text. Mm-hmm. Also, they can preside the Patimosha ones. So this is the big education support here. And also they can the title of the Khenpo. It's a title of the graduate. When they graduate, they will get the Khenpo, means it's kind of the it comes from the something like it's the name of the from Vinaya type. That's why they can study Vinaya.
Carol has a follow-up question on that. Are there full Geshe studies already? Geshe?
Geshe means
Geshe, that would be in a Gelugpa tradition, maybe? It would be Gelugpa, right? Khenpo. So that is the equivalent in the Kagyu school of the highest attained learning. So,
yes.
Okay, Carol, I hope that answers your question. Yes.
Just follow up. But one of the issues was there were nuns who were getting the degree, the commentarial degree, the 9 years of the commentarial degree, but they would not able to get the final degree, as Professor Gyeltshen says, because they did not have access to the Vinaya. So they would do the curriculum, they would finish their study, but they would not officially get that title because they could not study that last section of the Vinaya. So from now on, they should be able to do it.
Okay, and we have a question from Professor Gray Tuttle here, who's joining online. He asks, can you speak a little more about this incredible growth from 1982 to 2022 in relation to the recent full ordination? Clearly, there are a lot of nuns and nunneries, but what is the relation between the existing nuns and the fully ordained nuns? Were there representative nuns from each nunnery, or are these fully ordained nuns concentrated in just a few sites? So yeah, are the fully ordained nuns concentrated in just a few sites? is the idea that eventually most of the inhabitants of the nunnery would aim for full ordination?
Okay, thank you. What's the difference in 1980s and 2022?
Yeah, especially, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, it's big difference there. As I mentioned in my talk, in 1980 there were only 3 nunneries. Yeah,
3 nunneries, right?
nunneries.
Yeah.
And now we have about 30 or even still ongoing the rising the nunneries there. And if nunneries rise, then there will be the loss. It should be there in nuns actually in the nunneries, right?
Mhm.
So that's why the number in terms of the numbers, it is rising. Big difference. Yeah, something like how to say, there's one example, one Anu Sittingwoman in 1980s. She wanted to become a nun, but they were not allowed to. They were not institutional for the giving the commentary schools or nothing. That's why she traveled to India and Nepal. But now, forget about the commentary study. Even if they want to ordain, even from outside the Bhutan, also coming to Bhutan.
Okay.
This is the case. And the other question.
Well, I think maybe also the representation. So how many nuns are there, let's say in all of Bhutan, how many nuns are there? And you said 144 were fully ordained, of which 80% were from Bhutan.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, we do have over the 1,000 number, but this is the first time they also, some of they also don't know how how it will happen. That's why they don't receive the full ordain, and they are waiting for what they do, what happened. And
they're waiting to see what will happen. Yeah.
And it is, and so I think the next year it is going to again within 2 years that they are going to Je Khenpo is going to preside the
next ordination.
Full ordination within 2 years, every 2 years. So maybe in 2024, it will be number. It will be definitely increasing number.
So next June, June, possibly 2024.
Months we cannot decide right now. It will be 2024.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We have a lot of questions in the room as well. Okay. Sure. Please. Yeah.
Ray also asked about the distribution of the ones who are ordained.
Oh, good. Thank you. So do the nuns, are they concentrated, the ones that were ordained, fully ordained, were they concentrated in a few nunneries, or was it more representative from various nunneries?
I think it is various nunneries. West, East, and every nun they represented. Some of them 20, and some of them 5, and like this. Even from Nima nuns also they received
and there was some. Okay, thanks. All right, in the back of the room there.
Hi, my name is Hongvu. I'm a research associate here. I do apologize. I'm not a Buddhist studies scholar. I'm a political historian. So my question, I apologize ahead of time for any ignorance on my part, but my question has more to do with the international dimensions of this. When China took over, Tibet, very bad thing, but one of the things that they criticize, and they still sort of criticize the government of the Dalai Lama for, is what they call feudalism, right? Neighboring Nepal is also run by Communist Party. And I understand that sort of the monarchy of Bhutan, right, especially the king, educated in Oxford, right, has been undertaking a number of constitutional reforms, and this seems to me, right, in a way, in the direction of sort of these liberal reforms.
do you think that's part of the case? Do you see sort of it as a sort of response to criticisms from like sort of the Chinese left? Do you see potentially then any of this movement spreading to other countries in Southeast Asia, given that Sri Lanka has also had ordinations of nuns since '96? Now with Bhutan taking this next step, will it spread to Tibet proper? Will it spread to Thailand, Burma, other places? Thanks.
Thank you. I don't get properly.
Will it spread, basically? That right? Do you see that this practice might spread? Is that the question? Is that to other areas? Some areas already have full ordination, but you're asking, will it spread to possibly Tibet, Nepal? Yeah, in response to criticisms from outside.
Yeah, whatever the people do this, some of there will be criticism, not all the positive. Some of negative should be there because of we have to modify. We have to think about the other things. It should be always when we do the small things. Also, it's criticism. There will be some criticism. Yeah, we have a criticism there during the full ordination, but because it is dependent on Je Khenpo, he already mentioned during his beside the full ordination to the nuns. But we have to refer for the Vinaya text. In Vinaya text, it is allowed. What criticism is that they are saying it is not in Himalayan lineage. So even from the 7th century, we call the Shantarashita. He went from India to the Tibet, and he presided there in full ordination for the monks, but he didn't ordain to the nuns. And that's why someone said this is new one. Even the 7th century Shantarashita didn't preside that one. It is a new rule and new. But it depends. I think it is not Shantarashita already ordained to the monks. If the monks already ordained, then even these days also, if nuns want to the full ordained, there should be the monks, full ordained monks. In the main basic is there. After they can continue the whatever. If the nuns wants to the ordain, but it depends on institutional recognition, right? Is that clear for your question?
Can I add something?
Sure.
I think we'll continue with the questions, if that's okay. Yeah, there's a few more questions. I want to make sure we get that before. We only have about 7 minutes left. Maybe related to this, I'm not sure. And maybe you've answered this and I just don't understand it, but what plans are in place to offer the bhikṣunis ongoing Vinaya education? Ideally, this would come from senior bhikṣunis, which mean it would need to be nuns from the Dharma Guptaka tradition. That's from Tupinchuni.
Dharma Guptaka tradition is a different lineage. It is already there in China or Southeast Asia. They have both, I think, nuns and both full ordained there. But in Himalayan region, we never introduced that Dharma Guptaka tradition, full ordained, not monks or nuns there. But some of them unofficially they requested and went to the Taiwan or the like Kamapa request, Jawa Kamapa organized in Dorji, then like maybe I don't know, maybe it should be Dharma Guptaka lineage. It is there, but it is not. I cannot say that this is a good or not bad. But for Bhutan is institutional recognition lineage on Mūlasarvāstivāda.
They're only following Mūlasarvāstivāda.
Yeah, which is Shantarashita introduced in the 7th century.
Okay, thank you. Also from, I think another practitioner, Thupten Lhamsa, did any of the fully ordained nuns discuss their opportunities to participate in Sangha rituals, such as prasadha, sojong, which you mentioned,
Yeah.
Varsa,
Yeah,
Varsa, Pravarna, and did they discuss any difference in the support they receive from laity? So yeah, did they discuss opportunities for the Sangha rituals,
Yes.
and what about laity support? Oh, we'll start with the Sangha rituals. Yeah, did they talk about this
Yes,
opportunity?
And they say it is very benefit for the receiving the full ordination, because before they can listen the Patimoksha.
Right.
Now they can recite the Patimoksha type, and they can study the Vinaya,
Mhm.
and they can organize and recite organized by themselves. So Jung Yan Gaya like Barsa is a summer retreat, and they can they can do that. Even the what to say, the novice also they can attend, but in the main part they cannot attend. This is the difference. Like Sojong Yan 3 is Barsa or Sojong Yan Kai 3 part. They even novice nuns and among they can attend this ritual. The main part they have to go out. When they reciting Patimoksha, then they have to.
Then they have to leave. You had mentioned that.
Leave that hall. That's why most of the nuns who ordained, they are really enjoying it. Is very opportunity for them to get the opportunity for listen the Patimoksha and recite the Patimoksha.
Okay. Can you comment on, this was an anonymous attendee, who are teaching the nuns in the commentarial colleges?
Commentary.
Are there any Khenmos that are teaching yet?
Yeah, in the we have in eastern part and some nuns, they are already, even the institution also coordinating themselves. In the Padmachuni is the eastern side. There's a big nun there, and there are many Khenmos, and the institute like Sheda, they overtake themselves.
So they've instituted their own Sheja,
Yeah,
and then a Khenmo is leading those teachings. So, yeah.
Khenmos are teaching them.
Okay, wonderful.
Khenmo is teaching in the institute.
In the Sheja.
Yeah. Even not only the just teaching of that, what to say, the organizing and the all over they are looking all over the institute themselves.
So managing it in a
yes.
sense themselves. Okay. All right. We have time for, I guess, one more question here. I'm sorry. This is from Elena Pakotova from the Rubin Museum. And she notes, I'm going to take just one of your questions, Elena, sorry. Okay. So she noted a difference that Professor Lopez had mentioned, dichotomies in monastic education, commentarial versus ritual, but no practice was mentioned. And then in your talk, you had mentioned a training center for women, not necessarily nuns, right?
Yep.
For women. And you had focused on things that are meant to improve their lives, such teaching them experiential practices such as Qigong, Tai Chi, meditation, etc. This training center was among the main supporters for the full nun's ordination. There seems to be somewhat of a variance in goals. Could you comment on this? I think the relative weight of monastic education commentary vis-a-vis sort of more practical training. Could you just talk about maybe a relative weight? Would you see these as separate goals or joined goals of the training center for more practical training or monastic education? Where's the focus, I guess?
That means
it would be a contrast between the goal, the focus on monastic education, whereas you had emphasized training, experiential practice, let's say monastic education, commentary, et cetera, and then experiential training is there a balance there or an effort to address both of these trainings? Some for nuns, some for women who are not nuns. Could you talk about that? She is saying that she feels a difference in the two goals. Are they joined? Are these two separate curriculum? Maybe that they.
The commentary curriculum is it's about the rules and vows about it.
Yeah.
If they study the Vinaya commentary and they know day-to-day life, what they have to do, what they can do in commentary, it will come in the commentary.
Yeah.
The other in the Bhutan Nuns Foundation, they supporting hygienic or something, hospice. It is very important for them when they are following their rules and the regulations according to the Vinaya, and then this is the health care or how to care their health in the body. And even there is in Vinaya also they have a lot of the take care of their body and how to take care of their health. And so that's why it is very support both in supporting. It is both important monastic commentary and the Bhutan Nuns Foundation, they're giving the orientation or support.
So that the training center is on a more practical focused, whereas the commentary and teaching is happening more in the nunneries, maybe also?
Yes.
Could we say that?
Yeah. Training centers are there more focusing on the hygienic and what is unhygienic and hygienic. This they will train and do like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to leave the questions there, but would you like to say anything in closing and maybe your own motivation in doing this study? How was it that you were drawn as a professor of law? And I know you have a varied background, but would you want to close with what motivated you to work in this area or any other last words you might want to say?
Thank you. It is, I'm very happy because it is this area is my experience one which I have been in for long my life in the monastic institution, and I know some most of the what's the Vinaya text and whatever that, and coincide inside I met in them Professor Manuel was in 2018, and we did lots of the long research, and between COVID also we try to do the online, and it's very and that's why it is very good, how to say, it is very good for me because I have some experience there. And second one is that this is not focusing on the nuns and gents, because in this we can help the nuns and which they need the help. Not I'm saying that the helping for them, but this is a little bit issue in the 21st century for the gender balancing. So that's why I'm very happy to come here and talk in Columbia University. Thank you for.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Well, we're very happy to host you. And yeah, thank you. It was a very interesting topic, and to see this dramatic growth throughout your research and to result, in your presenting today. I also like to thank Professor Lopez for joining us, everybody who showed up, to the Weatherhead for sponsoring us and for your help here today. Finally, to remind people that our next two events, we have a talk with Andrew Grant, the author of Concrete Plateau. Our new postdoc fellow, Kuncho Gelek, will be serving as a discussant for that. I'll be moderating that on November 30th at noon. And we will also be launching a Pema Tsetin film tribute series on December 1st. We have a really nice theater here on campus at Dodge, in Dodge Hall. That'll be December 1st. It's a Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. So you can check our website, tibet.columbia.edu, for details on that under the events tab. Thank you, everyone.